Coach Stacy, Lynn here. Happy Monday. It is August 3rd. Yeah, it is. And what is it that people who struggle with self-worth, what do you guys need? What is it you think that you need? I'm going to ask that again. What is it that you think that you need or anybody needs who struggles with self-worth? What is it? I'm going to tell you what it is. You need to know how much God loves you. I know it sounds so simple and basic, but in today's ministry culture, especially when you got false teachers like Perry Stone and so many other these false teachers out there, not teaching you your value, and instead beating you up spiritually, very much like the Pharisees did of old. They hit people, they burdened them with God's word. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a series. And this is what my series is. It's on Psalm 139. Now, before you leave and click away, I'm going to tell you something that was really important about Psalm 139. Psalm 139 was written by the second king of Israel, and that was King David. And if you know anything about King David, then you may know that King David was a very traumatized man. In fact, some people believe that he was the most traumatized man in all of the Bible. And I know somebody's going, but wait, wasn't Job the most traumatized? And I will say, no, I don't think Job was the most traumatized. I think Job, the book shows us that Job had a lot of calamity happen at once, but I don't think he was the most traumatized. Job was well established in the city square. He was well respected. He was a man that did fear God. He had a big family. He was very wealthy. King David, on the other hand, he was an outcast, and he did some pretty dumb things. I mean, pretty evil, stupid things. I mean, he acted like a person who was traumatized. So today, what I'm going to do, and I want to encourage you in this, is I'm going to start this series on Psalm 139, very much like we did the series, How to Think Like Christ, which is from Colossians 3, verses 1 through 17, the whole playlist there. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. I hope you do. Hope you go watch it. But this one, we are going to do a deep dive into Psalm 139. So obviously, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read Psalm 139 to you. And I'm going to find it first. And I'm putting all of this in semi-written form over on my Substack page. So I'm going to share my screen here for that first. All right. And I'm not going to read everything on my Substack. I'm only going to read this here. Okay. So I'm going to be doing this in the NLT version. And the reason why is because I'm just trying to switch it up. I usually read the New American Standard, but I like the NLT because it flows pretty well. So here's what it says: for the choir director, a psalm of David. O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts, even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel. And when I rest at home, you know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say, even before I say it, Lord. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there your hand will guide me and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness, I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book, and every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts to me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake up, you are still with me. Oh God, if only you would destroy the wicked. Get out of my life, you murderers. They blaspheme you. Your enemies misuse your name. Oh Lord, shouldn't I hate those who hate you? Shouldn't I despise those who oppose you? Yes, I hate them with total hatred, for your enemies are my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts, pointing out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Now, this is one of the most popular Psalms in the Bible, and yet it's probably one of the least studied. And so, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to look at verse 1. And you're going to learn something new that I did. I learned something new this morning when I was doing this. And I'm titling verse 1, Made for the Choir to Sing About God Who Examines His Creation. So, this is the first thing that you have to understand about Psalm 139 is all the Psalms are songs. And the word psalm here actually means melody. And it means to put a poem to a melody, which, I know you're going, duh, of course, that's what a psalm is. It's a song. But if you consider that this was a poem that King David wrote that a choir sang. Now, I don't know about you, but when you hear a choir sing, most of the time, whenever I hear a choir sing, it's usually at Easter or Christmas. It's never about something like this. And what this psalm is ultimately about, it's about God's all-knowing power, his omniscience, his omnipresence. He is all-knowing and he is all-present with us. And so David wrote this song, and it starts out with the words here, for the choir director, a psalm of David. All right. So I want to share my screen here so you can see my Substack as I go through this today. I think it's kind of important because I want to share with you how I'm going to be examining this passage of the word. Okay. So you can see right here, for the choir director, a psalm of David. And then we're going to look at, oh Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. Okay. So before we dive in, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to look at this through this lens. Obviously, we're going to look at the Hebrew text underlying the words in this verse. Each verse, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to actually look at the Hebrew and see what the writer actually meant. And I'm going to look at 4 things as I write about this. How God sees you as his beloved creation, what you can learn about God and who he is as a person, how to reframe any trauma that you may have encountered, and a way to internalize the truth of this whole psalm. That's what we're going to look at. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm going to tell you a personal story about why this psalm in particular is very important to me. And I actually write about this on my blog, but I'll go into a little bit more detail here. This psalm was first introduced to me when I got into therapy like 30 years ago. My therapist at the time, she was so ahead of her time, I asked her to record some Psalms to me. And I told her, I said, will you just pick out some things that you think would help me? And so she did. She recorded this Psalm and another one. And she gave it to me. And I listened to it over and over and over and over again because I needed to hear the truth of the word. And because I had been raised with a mother who was very viciously violent. My mom was basically a covert narcissist who was also pretty sociopathic. I mean, my mom was sadistic. She did things to me that no mom should ever do to anybody. And I've shared some of those things, but one of the main things she told me over and over again was that she wished I was never born. And if abortion was legal, in the year I was born, she would have killed me, right? Now, that actually, if you look at Romans 1, and it talks about the women being turned over to those things that are unnatural. My mom had that unnatural bent. A natural bent for a woman is to nurture babies, to encourage, coddle, nurture. I mean, I can't stand it. I go outdoors and my neighbor's cat comes over my house and I have to pick it up and kiss it and give it a hug because I can't help it. It's everything in me is a nurturer. My mom was not that way. My mom was unaffectionate. She called me every name in the book you can think of. She told me she wished I was never born. And she essentially cursed the fact that I was a woman, right? That I was a girl. She didn't want me, bottom line. Okay. So for me, Psalm 139 became one of those anchor scriptures in my life because as I began to really internalize this and believe it, I could see how much God loved me and why he even made me. And I hope that if you're somebody that struggles with your self-worth, that through the study of this psalm, you'll see that too. So the first thing about this psalm is that it's a song. And David wrote it for a choir. And I'm going to share some fun things I learned here. This is so cool. I'm a geek. I have to admit it. I'm totally a Bible geek. And I'm going to share with you a couple of things I learned here. All right. So first thing is the Hebrew word for the phrase, the choir director, is nasa. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but what it means is to glitter from afar, to be eminent as a superintendent, especially of the temple services and its music, to be permanent, excel, and it refers to the chief musician, which is a singer or overseer. This word is used 65 times in the Old Testament. And here's just a few of the verses and what we can learn from this word in general. Okay. So in 1 Chronicles 15:21, we have a list of the men who played the lyres. In 2 Chronicles 34:12, it shows that other Levites, all of whom were skilled musicians. So we know it was the Levites who did this. Okay. So that's the tribe of the Levites. And then I noticed something really interesting as I was going through the Psalms here. I noticed 4:1, 5:1, 6:1, and then it went through various other ones. It always said for the choir director, a Psalm of David. And in particular, it said how it should be accompanied. So this Psalm 4 is to be accompanied by stringed instruments. Psalm 5 was to be accompanied by the flute. Different, right? Psalm 6 was to be accompanied by an 8-stringed instrument. And then in Psalm 39:1, it actually tells you the name of the choir director, which I thought was really cool. So it's this guy, Jeduthun. He actually is the name of the choir director. And in the 65 times that this word is used, you only see Jeduthun's name used twice. There are also psalms written by Asaph and Korah. And there are various songs also mentioned in some of these where it says to be sung to the tune of. If you go and you just look up this Hebrew word, you'll find a list of those 65 verses. And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, now we know the choir director was Jeduthun. And we also know that in the temple, they used stringed instruments, a flute, a lyre. And this particular psalm, Psalm 139, is actually written by David. As I said earlier, he's the second king of Israel and probably the most traumatized guy in the Bible. So this is interesting. David tells the Lord that he has searched him. He says, "You have searched me." And the phrase, "you have searched me," is the Hebrew word hagquar, I guess. I don't know how to say that, which means to penetrate, hence to examine intimately, find out, make, search out, seek out, try. And the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon says to search, to investigate. And the primary idea is that of digging in the dirt to find the roots. Job 28:3 uses the same word. And it says, they know how to shine light in the darkness and explore the farthest regions of the earth as they search in the dark for ore. And Job 28:27 says, then he saw wisdom and evaluated it. He set it in its place and examined it thoroughly. So this first part where David is saying, you have searched me, it's this idea of being investigated, and I had a couple of thoughts when I read some of these definitions. One thought was um, intimacy between a man and a woman, that there's this penetration and there's this knowing somebody that much. And then that of almost an archaeologist, that a scientist, that you could literally pick something apart and you could search it and examine. Now, on the more nefarious side, you might want to say somebody who would want to do this type of searching, maybe a stalker, somebody who might find you interesting. They might want to dig up all this dirt on you, or they might want to figure out everything about you so they can learn to control you. That's kind of a nefarious way of looking at it. But God is not that way. God is all loving towards you, his creation. And David is declaring to him in praise that you have investigated me. You have searched me. And this is the other thing about this. This is past tense, right? So this was done already. And if you think about it, as I thought about it this morning, it's quite amazing to consider somebody loving you that much. They know everything about you, and they took that much time to care about you, but God created you. He specifically made you. He made you with your eye color. He picked the gender you're going to be. He gave you the hair color you have. He gave you whatever traits that you have. He specifically made you. So the way I kind of saw this was, okay, God made me, but now he's investigating what he made. It's like, okay, it'd be like in that book, Theo of Golden. Theo, the main character, goes into this town named Golden, and he notices in this coffee shop all of these portraits that a guy had drawn. A man who draws somebody else's portrait has to study them so intently that they get every detail correct. That's what this made me think of, because you cannot draw something unless you stare at it intently and you know exactly where all the details are. And I actually saw this bore out. A number of years ago, I had a radio listener who tuned into my show, and she was an artist. She wanted to draw a picture of my dog, Grover, one sitting behind me. And what she did was she put up her daily progress on Facebook so I could see it. And in the beginning, I was like, that ain't Grover. That doesn't look like Grover. That's not Grover. That's not Grover. And then as time went on, I was like, oh my gosh, there's Grover. I began to see it unfold, like, oh, there he is. But she, as the artist, was looking so intently at each little thing in the picture, and she was drawing it. That's how intimately God has searched you. He made you, right? But that is really a cool picture of how God intimately knows you. So David here is declaring to the Lord in this psalm, he's saying, you have searched me. All right. And then in the next part here, I'm going to scroll down some more, see if I can get to this part. The next part here, it says here, and actually in my writing here, I gave the example of George Washington Carver. Now, a lot of people don't know that George Washington Carver was actually a botanist. He loved plants, but he's known for what he did by studying the peanut. Okay, so he studied the peanut through his whole life, and as a result, he found ways to use peanuts that nobody else would have ever figured out, because he was so intent on examining every aspect of it. That's how God is with us. That's how God knows, and you can trust him, what you're good for, right? Like, I created you to do this specifically because I gave you this, just so you know, people. So I think it's interesting. I find it interesting that the God who created me and you would actually take the time to examine us that much. Yet it makes sense to me, because God isn't careless. He isn't a careless creator. He is a loving creator. And he made you and he made me the way that he wanted us to be. So those things that you don't like about yourself, guess what? God does. God likes you. He likes you the way you are. Okay? I mean, he made you. He predetermined everything about you, your looks, your genes, all of that stuff. So it's interesting too, because in Psalm 139, there are other parts people add that he has searched our heart, but that's actually not in the Hebrew actually itself. It's not in there. But anyway, it says here, the next phrase in Hebrew is and have known. And they add the word me, which also is not in Hebrew. That's not there. But the idea is that God has searched you and he knows you. Okay. And here is what the word know means. And it's quite extensive. It's the word senses figuratively, literally, euphemistically, inferentially. And it means acknowledge, acquaintance, advise, answer a point, assuredly, be aware, comprehend, consider, and so on. You can read that list later. So that's the point, and that's the first verse of this psalm. So God has knows you intimately, and he searched you out. Now, the question I have for you is this. Knowing this about the God who created you, that he shows this much interest in you, does that make you feel, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel loved? Does it make you feel humbled? Does it make you scared? Do you want to run and flee and hide because God knows all this stuff about you? I mean, he knows everything about you. For me, it made me feel humbled, and also it made me feel really loved because God knew who I was going to be from the very beginning of the time he created me in my mother's womb. And because of that, I know his intentions for me are good and everything about him is good. I wouldn't even be here if he didn't make me, you know? And I think Christians forget that. I think people forget that. I think a lot of people forget, oh, God made you. Yeah, he made you. God actually made you. And then he examines you. He searches you. He knows everything about you. And you know what? He loves you anyway, right? He loves you anyway. That's the amazing thing about this. And this is the thing that I really, as I was praying about how to minister to you here on this channel, that is one thing I want you to really internalize this. You know, David did. He put it in a music. He put it in a song so much that a choir sang this. I was thinking, you know, David was Jewish, obviously. And Messianic music is really cool. I love it, actually. It's some of my favorite. But can you imagine a whole choir singing this? You have searched me and you have known me. You know, and in the next verse, we're going to get to see what else God has done. But just those thoughts for today. God has searched you. God knows you. He knows you so well. He knows you better than you know you, right? And he will do things in your life that will change your life if you actually turn to him and really begin to focus on him. I think one of the tragedies of our day is that we have so much knowledge and yet so little fear of the Lord and so little knowledge of God because our attention is swayed and pulled in 10 million directions. And unfortunately, a lot of people are being swayed and pulled towards false teachers like Perry Stone and so many of the other false teachers out there today. I know I get attacked by the followers of these people. And it breaks my heart because if you are being deceived by somebody who doesn't tell you the truth about who God is and isn't telling you the truth about who you are, then you're not going to be very fruitful as a believer. And God desires for us to be fruitful. And I believe that his influence can be made greater in your life if you focus more on him in that way. So that's what I got for you today. I hope those of you who watched to the end that you like it. I would love a comment. Let me know if you did this. And I know it's going to be 2 or 3 people, if that, but that's okay. I'm here and I'm going to be doing this regardless of the massive numbers that watch this or not, because I know this is the word of God and it is true. And that value, if you're somebody who does not value who you are, this is a psalm you really want to internalize. So I give that to you today. I hope you have a better day, people. And as always, I have a calendar. If you want to set up a time to talk to me privately, you can also do that. Just click the link in my bio and it's right up there. Okay, until the next video.